Hi, I'm Tiffany, and this is Towering TBR. Today I am going to be talking about all the books that I read in June. I've read a lot of short things, and so I was able to finish 16 books or comics. I also was reading predominantly queer stories in the month of June for Pride Month. So I've split my wrap up into queer reads and not queer reads. I'm going to start with the lowest rated and work my way up to the best. The first book is Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls by T. Kira Madden. If you saw my vlog, you'll see that I didn't really enjoy this. I gave it 2 stars. It was a memoir of T. Kira Madden's life growing up as a queer woman. And while she had an interesting life, the memoir was incredibly messy and not really cohesive. I think if you like stream of consciousness, you'd probably be fine with this, but I wanted a more cohesive narrative structure. She bounces around in time quite a lot and includes memories where I don't really understand the significance of why she's talking about that experience. And I feel like she really just didn't really dig deep for this, and all of those things made me not really enjoy it. So 2 stars for this book. Another book I read this month was Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This was my first Akwaeke Emezi, and I'm definitely going to pick up more of their stuff because I really did enjoy the writing. This is about Jam, a 17-year-old trans girl who accidentally brings a painting of her mother's to life, and he, or it, says that there's monsters and that they need to hunt down the monsters. They live in this idyllic utopian world, and the monsters are, people who do reprehensible things. And so she has to go hunt one of those reprehensible people. Gave it 3 stars. Just because I felt like it was a really odd length. It's fairly short, but I felt like it either could have been shorter or it could have added a lot more world building about why the paintings come to life. So gave this 3 stars, but I'm definitely not dissuaded from picking up their other books. I don't have a physical copy of this next book, but I read Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx. This is a short story about Ennis and Jack, who are ranch hands who work together one summer and fall in love. But times being what it is, they're not really able to be together, and they have these stolen moments that they can get together when they get away from their wives and their children, and ultimately it's quite tragic. I'm glad I read it, but yeah, wow, that was tough. The next queer book I read was Annie on My Mind by Nancy Garden. This is a YA queer classic. Came out in 1982. It's about these 2 teenage girls who fall in love, and they just discover their sexuality and what it means, and just face normal challenges that most people in relationships would face. I liked it because it was hopeful and optimistic. I gave it 3.5 stars. I then picked up a graphic novel called Stone Fruit by Lilay. I gave this 3 stars for the exact reason that I did not really care for the art style. It's pretty bland, but the story was compelling. It's about a woman and her girlfriend, and her girlfriend is going through a depressive episode and ultimately decides to break up the relationship so that she can focus on herself and healing. And it's also about the other woman, her sister, her accepting the fact that she dates women, and there's some homophobia in the beginning about how she doesn't want the girlfriends to be around her kid. But yeah. This was just kind of okay, since the art style didn't compel me, and since the breakup happens like pretty much in the beginning, it was just kind of a somber graphic novel to read. I picked up another graphic memoir this time, Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. I gave this 3.5 stars. This is her story growing up. Their family runs a funeral home, and she finds out that her dad has had sexual relationships, affairs, with men and young boys, like her babysitter. He really struggles. I think if her dad had been allowed to grow up in a more modern time, he probably never would have married a woman and had children. It's unclear if he's gay or bi. She's not really sure either. But she also discovers that she's a lesbian and comes out to her dad. Well, both of her parents, really. But she somewhat tenuously connects with him because of it. I don't want to give away more, but I will say what probably dropped my rating on this was that this is an incredibly text-heavy graphic memoir in which the pictures don't really add that much. It's black and white with like shades of blue and gray. I think this is a seminal queer text that if you like graphic memoirs, you should definitely pick up. The next book I picked up, I technically have it, but I had to get it through Interlibrary Loan, which has all of my information on the front. So I'm just showing the back, and I can insert the front in editing. But this book is called Love That Journey for Me, The Queer Revolution of Schitt's Creek by Emily Garside. Oh my goodness, this was really enjoyable to read. Not only do I like the TV show Schitt's Creek, and not only are there queer characters on the show, but she points out that it's basically a utopian society that they're in, that there isn't any homophobia, there isn't racism, there isn't prejudice in the town, and that by showing an inclusive community, people are able to become the best version of themselves. And not only did that make me tear up, but it also made me really, really want to rewatch the series. So I will probably do that. A graphic novel that I reread was Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. 5 stars. Listen to the audiobook as well. She's a shapeshifter. And yeah, she works for the villain. She's coming up with all these plans and really encouraging the villain to be more evil. He's actually pretty mellow. But, let's see. I'll show you some of the artwork. It's nice and colorful, and it's really easy to read in a graphic novel, so I'm really, really glad I picked it back up. I also read the comics Bingo Love and Bingo Love Jackpot Edition by T. Franklin. Gave the first one 5 stars and the Jackpot 4 stars. I talked about it in my vlog as well, but it's just a wonderful story of 2 black women who fall in love as teenagers and are separated for nearly 50 years, and ultimately they find their way to each other again and just try to get every last drop out of their relationship. Oh, it was sweet, it was heartbreaking, it was so good. I'm definitely going to watch and see if T. Franklin puts out anything else because I loved it. And lastly, the last queer book I'm going to talk about, I also gave 5 stars. 3 5 stars this month, so that's pretty awesome, is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. Sarah Waters was described to me as lesbian Dickens, and I think that sums it up quite quite well. It's set in Victorian England, and it's about a young woman, and she and her adopted family are thieves, and they run cons and just have a very dishonest living. And a man comes by that they know who says he wants to run a con with the girl, and so she goes there to be the lady's maid so that she and the gentleman can steal the woman's fortune. But then she and the woman fall in love, and quite a bit of stuff happens after that. I went into this not knowing hardly anything, and I think that made some of the reveals more impactful. So I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but this was so good. I will say Sarah Waters' writing is similar to Dickens, and I love that. But I thought I would share one line that really spoke to me. And it said, "I give myself up to the darkness and wish I may never again be required to lift my head to the light." I'm not going to tell you which character said that, but I thought that was really well crafted. So, love this. Definitely going to pick up more Sarah Waters in the future. I think I already have 2 other books from her, so I will probably prioritize those soon. I'm also going to talk about the books I read that didn't have anything to do with Pride Month. The first is a compilation of comics, Best American Comics 2019, edited by Jillian Tamaki. So what she did was she hand-selected, I'm not sure how many's in here, let's see. Okay, so there's like 24 excerpts from graphic novels that were published in 2018. I read this for a Read Harder challenge, to read a best of book, and I decided to choose comics because I didn't think novels would be as impactful if they were just excerpts. But I gave this 2 stars. There's a lot of different art styles and a lot of different stories in here, but it only made me seek out 2 that piqued my interest. The rest, I either really didn't like the writing style or the visibility of the words were too crammed and too small to make it very legible, which is a pet peeve of mine when I read comics. So 2 stars, but it did introduce me to 2 others that hopefully I might like. I also read the short story Randomized by Andy Weir. I love Andy Weir. I've read Project Hail Mary and I've read The Martian. I'm not going to read Artemis because I've heard lots of bad stuff about it, but he wrote a short story for Amazon called Randomized, and it was about technology and gambling. I think it was fine, but I really like him best when he writes about space and aliens and that kind of sci-fi rather than dystopian technology. So I gave that 3 stars. I also picked up A Crooked Tree by Una Mannion. This was a family drama about a mom getting frustrated with her 12-year-old kid and kicking her out of the car, and the events that happened because of that action. The girl in question was 12, and this was set in the 80s before cell phones, and the girl endures a trauma, and the family deals with it. I gave it 3 stars because while I enjoyed reading it, there was nothing that made me feel compelled to keep turning the pages. It was fine. I enjoyed the reading experience, but I won't read it again. So I picked up Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol. She's actually not for this comic, but she's actually in the excerpts of the comics. I did like the art style. So Anya's Ghost is about Anya, a girl who moved to the United States from Russia, and is doing everything possible to fit in. She is trying to lose her accent. She's trying to avoid another Russian boy that goes to her school because he embodies everything that she is trying to give up. She wants to assimilate, become American. And one day, she falls down a well, and there are the bones of someone who died in that well. And yeah, there's a ghost, and I don't want to say anything more than that because this is not super duper long, but I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a cute YA story. So let me show you some of the art style. I like it because the text is quite small comparatively to the pictures, which visually is just nice. I also finished All These Worlds by Dennis E. Taylor, which was the third book in the We Are Bob series. And it was great. I really loved it. There was a little bit of hand waving at the end to kind of, they didn't really explain how they accomplished some things. And that was out of character for the rest of the series. But I still think it was a very fast-paced conclusion. And I now have the fourth book, which I think he wrote later. But I think it's still part of that world, and I'm excited to get to that one. So I gave that 4 stars. I also read Amulet 1 and 2, The Stonekeeper's Curse. This is the second one. This has a really pretty art style. I really quite enjoy it. So this is a middle grade series about a young girl who becomes this stonekeeper. The amulet calls to her and gives her magical powers. And she's kind of the chosen one, and she's fighting against the elves because I think they want to steal the power of the amulet. And so, yeah, in the first comic, you see that her father has died, and her mother and herself and her brother move out to an inherited family estate, and that's when she becomes the stonekeeper. And in the second volume, she is on a quest to find medicinal help to help someone that is injured. I enjoyed the first one. I gave it 4 stars. It was really fast-paced. And I gave the second book 3 stars. I know there are 8 in the series, but I'm not sure I want to continue on because while I enjoy middle grade, there just doesn't seem that extra something to keep me going. And I feel like the world building is pretty slow. I don't know hardly anything about the amulet or what gives it its power or any of that kind of stuff, which I'm sure is uncovered in future volumes, but I'm not sure if I want to continue. We'll see. So that's it. I read 16 things, which is crazy, but some of them were short stories and comics are faster. Tell me, what did you read in the month of June? Anything great? Have you read any of the books that I read? Did you have a different opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you. Bye.